Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Wednesday, it is match day. How nice is it to say that? Feels like it's been ages since we've been able to say that. Finally, football is back. Arsenal is back. Sorry, I shouldn't say football. Arsenal are back and we get to watch them in action in just a couple of hours' time, actually, when they take on AC Milan. By the time you're watching or listening to this, you might already have watched Arsenal's opening game of pre-season against Milan over in Singapore. So we are going to talk about that very, very briefly because, like I said, by the time you're watching this, it might well be out of date. But we'll talk about that game a little bit. Of course, we're going to talk about Viktor Gyokeres. I had to stop myself from starting like that. But last time I did it, it went about 9 days until we had any sort of progress on the deal. So I thought I'd stop it this time. I'd temper my excitement and wait until he's on board holding up that Arsenal shirt before we can all start doing the Gyokeres celebration again. Don't think that's going to be too long to wait. So we'll talk about him. Of course, we will in the show. Christian Mosquera as well, expecting that announcement today that he is a new Arsenal player, which will be great. Obviously, he's over with the squad now in Singapore, having flown out yesterday. Obviously, not going to be involved in the game today. Well, I highly doubt he's going to be involved in the game today, but it's going to be great to see him over there. And who knows, we could see him against Newcastle on Sunday. So we'll talk about that. Got a few questions and comments from you guys as well. Got to hail the Arsenal women as well yesterday, firing England through in the most dramatic of fashion to the Euros final. Michelle Ajimang and Chloe Kelly, brilliant from the girls coming off the bench to rescue England once again. So we'll talk about that as well. But we've got to start with Big Vic, Arsenal's new signing. Well, again, temper the excitement. It's not done yet. He's still got to undergo medical, all that, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I know. But finally, we have big progress on it. The add-ons have been agreed. We've waited 9 days, I think. This deal has been agreed in principle for a long time. Way back, that was on Sunday last week that was done. I think it's been 9 days we've waited for them to get to an agreement over how the 10 million in add-ons were exactly going to be reached and how they were going to be set out. We are now there. So there's just a couple of little bits and pieces to sort out. The medical, I've seen reports that he's going to be flying to Singapore to do the medical. I can't confirm that at this stage. Unfortunately, I haven't had it confirmed. As I reported yesterday on Inside Arsenal Extra Time, I had heard something that really reassured me that this deal was going to happen and that Arsenal had been putting really firm plans in place and preparations in place for Gyokeres to fly out and be part of the squad. I would imagine part of those preparations would probably be the capability of being able to do a medical over there because it just would save time. So it makes sense if he's going to fly over and do his medical over there because, Mikel Arteta would have wanted him there before they left the UK. That didn't happen. So he's not going to want to waste any more time. Gyokeres flying from Mallorca. I think he's been sort of waiting for this deal to happen in Mallorca. He doesn't really want to waste time flying from there to the UK, undergoing a medical over a couple of days in London, then flying out to Singapore. It make perfect sense just to go straight out to Singapore where all the medical facilities are, the Arsenal medical staff are as well. I'm sure you'll be able to get doctors over there, whatever, to do the medical there in place. So you just don't have to waste another couple of days traveling time. I don't think we're at that stage yet in terms of the agreement, full agreement and all the paperwork being signed between Arsenal and Sporting, but we're getting very close. And from what I was told, when I was told about the sort of preparations being put in place for Gyokeres to go to Singapore or go to Asia, Arsenal's sort of in their mind, they were working towards him being involved in the Hong Kong part of the tour. So the Spurs game, basically, in the build up to the Spurs game. Now, Newcastle is on Sunday in Singapore before Arsenal fly out to Hong Kong. And that does kind of tie in, I suppose, maybe with time frame. So we'll wait and see. But it could be that he's on the plane today, which would be fantastic if this agreement can be done and all the paperwork can be signed. But it's just a big relief, isn't it? We've waited. It's been pretty stressful waiting for this deal to go through. Frustration has understandably been boiling over at times because everyone wants this striker on board. And this has felt so close for so long. But it is there now. Arsenal, Viktor Gyokeres, deal agreed. He is on the way to Arsenal. How nice does it sound to say that? Tom Cabin says, Gyokeres joining and Guinness arriving. What a beautiful world. Yes, obviously Arsenal announcing their agreement with Guinness yesterday as a partner. So along with Asahi, which was announced earlier on in the year. Guinness is coming to the Emirates Stadium, which is great, but I do wonder what is going to take longer, queuing to get a Guinness at the Emirates or Viktor Gyokeres signing for Arsenal. I think it's probably going to be queuing for Guinness at the Emirates. I'm not sure if it's going to be available at every single kiosk as well. In fact, I've told it's not. So I can't even imagine what the queues are going to be like. It's hard enough trying to get a normal drink at the Emirates before the game, certainly at half time, but to queue up and get a Guinness, my God, it's just stuff of nightmares. But so we'll see on that. But Tom's clearly very happy. Chicken Dippers says, "Morning, Charles. On this beautiful day in Sussex, the birds are singing. Why am I so cheerful? I hear you ask. We've finally got our player. Have to say, Berta got Sporting to accept just 63 million for the world's most wanted and prolific striker. That's how you do business. Get Eze, and it's a 9 out of 10 window in buying players. Let's see what he's like and selling players. Yes, I think attention will shift to selling players. No doubt about that." Was Gyokeres the world's most wanted striker? I think you're over-egging it a little bit there. I would imagine put Alexander Isak at the top of that list rather than Viktor Gyokeres, but I can absolutely understand your delight that Arsenal have got their guy. I think this has been a brilliant window, even if they don't get Eze, and I really hope they do, and you all know that I hope they do, because he's a player that I've wanted the whole time. But even if they don't get Eze, this has been a very good window for Arsenal. I really do think, even if they don't sign anyone else, and I'm not saying they won't, but I think it's been a good window. They've already got, if Gyokeres signs, Mosquera signs, that's 6 players already. They've really strengthened the squad in areas that need to be strengthened. They've got a striker in. I think it's a good window. It definitely, for me, feels like you need that cherry on the top now, that Eze cherry on the top, which would be fantastic. But when you sort of factor in the new deals already for Gabriel, for Miles, for Ethan, yeah, it's a really decent window, really decent summer Arsenal are having. Absolutely no doubt about that. And as I said, Mosquera is just going to be another one of those new additions. Now, at the time you're watching this, it might already have been announced. I know, expecting the announcement to come today. I don't know what time it will be. I would have thought it would be before the Milan game, just because I'm pretty sure he'll be at the Milan game and he'll be watching and he'll be in the crowd, and the TV cameras that are going to be there. If you see a new signing in the crowd, they're all going to zoom in on him. That just feels inevitable. And so you'd think Arsenal would want to announce him before that happens, if you see what I mean. But at the time of recording this, which is, we are now 10 past 10, let me just quickly check again that it hasn't happened. I've waited until 10 o'clock to see if it was going to be announced, but it wasn't announced at 10 o'clock, and it still hasn't happened. So they've only got a couple hours now to announce it before the game against Milan. But either way, whatever happens, the expectation is he will be announced as an Arsenal player today. He is now with the squad. He flew over yesterday, of course, and that's another fantastic piece of business. A piece of business I'm really excited about, as I spoke about yesterday on my shows. I think it's a really interesting signing that's just a little bit different to everything else we've seen this summer. Really talented young player that I know there's a lot of excitement about at Arsenal as well, that they've managed to get this deal done for Christian Mosquera. So really looking forward to seeing him. I can't imagine he'll be involved against Milan today, but Newcastle on Sunday, I don't see any reason why he can't get some minutes in that game, because Arsenal are going to want to try and get him up to speed as quickly as possible. So obviously it depends on what his fitness is like, but he was playing for Spain during the summer at the under-21s Euros. So I can't imagine his fitness has dipped that much in the time that he's not been playing in what sort of 4 weeks he's had off. So he'll be starting at a pretty decent base rate when it comes to fitness. So hopefully we will see him involved in that game against Newcastle. Right, turning our attentions to the game against Milan today. As I said at the start, it's just trying to do a predictive 11 for something like this is just nigh on impossible for me. I think, okay, let's give it a go, shall we? Let me give it a go, and I will go Raya in goal, White at right back, Saliba and Gabriel at centre backs, Miles left back, Zubimendi, Odegaard, Marino, Saka, Havertz, and Martinelli. That's my starting 11. I feel like that's far too strong. I just think he'll sort of mix and match it. It'll be like 6 sort of starters in the first half, if you see what I mean, of the regular starters in the first half, and then a few more afterwards. I'm really intrigued by Zubimendi, and I said this yesterday. I think it's going to be a really interesting part of pre-season is how Zubimendi gets on and how quickly Arsenal look to acclimatise him to his new surroundings, because that's going to be so crucial to the start of the season. That's why I think he'll start today. That's why I think Odegaard will start. I think it's going to be a big factor of pre-season is getting those two understanding each other and potentially having Zubimendi understand what it's like to have Gabriel and Saliba behind him as well, and how quickly the ball gets moved to him, all that sort of stuff. It's going to be a real key part of pre-season. Zubimendi's been speaking over in Singapore. I retweeted James's interview he's done with him over on The Athletic this morning. It's a really good interview. I urge you to go over and read it. I just wanted to say these quotes that he talked about Arteta on it and why he decided Arteta was the coach to leave Sociedad for, after so long of staying at Sociedad and rejecting other teams. Zubimendi said, "I don't know what he saw in me, but I saw him as one of the top coaches in Europe. I wanted a quality coach when I left Sociedad. I think I've found him. In the few days I've been here, I've seen how meticulous he is in every aspect of the game. So I think he's the one." When he was talking about how he's going to play and how quickly it's going to be to adjust to this midfield role, the number 6 role that he's going to be playing in here at Arsenal, which is a role he understands. Of course it is. He played it for Sociedad. He's played it for Spain. But it's very specific at Arsenal. No doubt about that, what is asked from that number 6 in that lone position ahead of the centre-backs. And Zubimendi said, "Arteta is the kind of coach who expects a lot from his midfielders. I'm going to try and do things I didn't do before. Playing in that position, I'll try and bring balance and provide that passing outlet that I'm known for. Beyond that, I'm sure he'll ask me to do new things." It's a really good interview. It's not just with Zubimendi either. It's like a double interview with Zubimendi and Marino. If you watch it on YouTube, you can see it. It was done. The Arsenal press pack that are over there had a chance to speak to the pair of them while they're at the Adidas launch yesterday evening. I think it was up on one of the fancy restaurants in Singapore, fancy bars in Singapore. There's a really good interview with the pair of them talking about their relationship with Sociedad, all that sort of stuff, and what it's going to be like. So I do urge you to go and read that on The Athletic or anywhere else that the press boys who have written that story and put it out on their socials. I did retweet, as I said, James's version of it earlier on today. Right, Aurora Freak has got in touch on the Inside Arsenal Discord. Actually, just to say before we do this, I will be republishing the FPL league that we did last season with Inside Arsenal. So if you're doing your FPL teams as usual, I'm sure if you did it and you were in that Inside Arsenal league last season, you'll automatically be put back into that. I'm also doing for my Inside Arsenal members, Patreon members, going to do a separate FPL league as well that I've spoken to you about on Discord and on the chat on the Patreon. And there will be prizes in this one. So if you want to be involved in that and you're not an Inside Arsenal member yet, then do come on board, come over, sign up. You get access to the Discord. You get access to exclusive content that doesn't go on my usual YouTube or podcast series. You get sort of ad-free versions of all these shows as well, and plenty more. There's other giveaways that you can get involved in. But yeah, if you want to get involved in the Inside Arsenal members FPL league, then sign up on Patreon, come over. You can get the code. I'll put it out once I've launched the league, and there will be monthly manager of the month prizes. There'll be overall prizes at the end of the season as well. So come on board if you want to get stuck into that. But I'll put the code up, but you have to join before the opening weekend of the season, before the first deadline, because I'm going to close it off to new entries over that, because I don't want you coming on board after points have already been scored. So you have to get your team in, register, get your team in, become an Inside Arsenal member before the opening weekend of the FPL season, because I will close it off at that point to new entries. And if you want to become an Inside Arsenal member and get access to all the stuff I've just talked about, then the link is down in the description. Just copy and paste it into your browser, go to Patreon and sign up and become a member, support the channel, and I will be very much appreciative of it. And thank you so much to everyone. Really looking forward to our first time on the Discord today, chatting and watching the Arsenal game all together on the Discord. That should be an awful lot of fun. Right, Aurora Freak is on the Discord, and he has sent in this message. He says, "Hey, Charles, I'm so happy to see us play again. I think we'll go with the following: Raya, White, Saliba, Gabriel, MLS, Zubimendi, Marino, Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, and Havertz." Is that the same team that I predicted? I think it probably is. Yes, I think it is, because you've done what I've done. I didn't think that I thought Timber might be sort of eased into it in pre-season. And also I thought Declan Rice, because he hasn't been involved in pre-season as much yet, that Marino would start ahead of him. So you're right. That's the one I've gone for. You then say, and then after 45 to 60 minutes, a load of changes. I don't think players like Rice, Gabriel, Calafiori, Timber will play more than 45 minutes. Right, let's just hail the ladies, shall we? Dramatic game again for England at the Euros yesterday. And again, it's down to the Arsenal girls to come off the bench and rescue them and get them through to the final, the third final in a row in international competitions for the Lionesses as well. It looked for a long, long time like they were going to be frustrated against Italy yesterday. Just couldn't find a way through. Conceded a goal after half an hour. And then it was a kind of backs to the wall type performance from Italy. They were doing it so well. They looked really, really determined. They were going to see it through. But Michelle Agermang, what a talent, what a player. Fantastic finish, deep into injury time to send the game to extra time. It was such a nice finish that, given the circumstances, she could have easily panicked when that ball fell to her in the box. But the composure she showed, the way she took a touch before getting the finish in, she didn't snatch at it. For someone so young and so inexperienced still, just thought it was such a good goal, such a good finish. And then obviously Chloe Kelly scoring after a penalty save, being alert to score the rebound to send England through to the final, where they're going to play either Germany or Spain. You would suggest it's probably going to be Spain, and they're going to certainly have to play an awful lot better against them if they're going to win this tournament and go back to back and keep the trophy that they won, obviously, at Wembley a few years ago. But brilliant to see the Arsenal girls doing it for England again. Well done. Congratulations. And yeah, looking forward now to the final. Sort of staying on the theme of the women, Mark says, I know many fans have been excited about the men's teams recently with pre-season starting and the transfer deals we have completed, but do you think people are forgetting about the women's team with the contributions our players will be making to the England team and the Euros riding high in the Champions League win and the equally fantastic transfer deals we've already secured for the women's team? Do you think we are in for a historic season where Arsenal dominate in both the men and women's competitions domestically and in Europe? Well, that would be nice, Mark. I certainly don't think people are forgetting about the women's team. Obviously, the men's teams get more publicity. I mean, it just does, doesn't it? It's the way it is. But Arsenal still absolutely leading the way when it comes to the women's game over here. So I don't think anyone's forgetting about it. And like you're right, some of the transfer business Arsenal have already done this summer is great. They're trying to build on the fact that they are European champions. They've got the really, really difficult task of sort of pulling Chelsea down from their perch where they've just been so dominant in the WSL. But the confidence Arsenal are going to have going into the season, when you look at it's going to be really interesting what happens with Agermang now. The idea, I think, this season was to send her out on loan again. But you look at the performances, what she's putting in, how good she looks at this level. Is that going to change now? And obviously you've got Steiner up front, you've got Russo up front next season. You look at the options they've got out wide. Mead, Russo, Olivia Smith, who they've just signed, Kelly. I mean, it's just the options that Renee Slegger's had available to her, certainly in attack at the moment, it's absolutely fantastic. So really looking forward to next season. And, look, Chelsea have had it a bit too easy, certainly last season, because of the start to the season that Arsenal had. But I don't think Arsenal are going to have a start to the season like they did last season. I think they're going to be much, much stronger. And it'd be fantastic if they could certainly not just close that gap, but get past Chelsea this season, because they are riding high on the crest of a wave as European champions, of course. But with that comes added pressure and added scrutiny as well. So they're going to have to deal with that, especially if they want to go deep in that competition once again. Finally, one from Owen who says, morning, Charles. Hope you're well. With Gyokeres finally coming in, do you think we will add any more? If so, do you think we should go for a left winger or a central attack midfielder who can play out on the left? I know we've talked about it before, but I'm not sure what I would go for. I would go for a central attacking midfielder who can play off the left. I just think Madueke is a genuine option on the left-hand side. I think Arsenal are going to use him more than a lot of people think they're going to use him over there. And when you've already got Martinelli here and potentially Trossard as well, we don't know what's still going to happen with him. I just think if you're going to sign one more player, for me, it needs to be someone who can play on the wing, cough Eze, but can also play in central areas. Again, cough Eze. Get that deal done, Arsenal. So yeah, do I think it will happen? I don't. It would. Look, I'm not going to sit here right now and rule it out. I think Arsenal are definitely actively looking in that area and looking at that market. But I think the attention is definitely going to shift to moving some players on once Mosquera is announced, but more importantly, once Gyokeres is announced, because the squad is looking pretty bulky now. No doubt about it. They need to move some players on. Reece Nelson, we know, discussions are going on with Fulham about Reece Nelson. That's ongoing. We'll see what happens when he gets back from tour. It might even come to a conclusion while he's on tour. Sambi Lokonga, Fabio Vieira, who's still away at the moment. Those sort of players. Alexander Zinchenko, even potentially. Those are the sort of players I think attention is going to shift to try and move them on. And then we've still got a lot of time left in the window when it comes to maybe adding one big Eze-shaped cherry on the top of what has been a very good window already for Arsenal. And that's it from me. I was going to say that's it from me today. I'm not entirely sure it is. I might be back a bit later after the AC Milan game at some point. If not, I'll definitely be talking about it tomorrow. Of course, enjoy the game, everyone. Enjoy the fact that Arsenal are back. Enjoy the fact that Arsenal are about to sign a striker. Enjoy the fact that Christian Mosquera is going to be announced at some point today. It's a good day. It is a good day. Have a great Wednesday. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.